Today's artifact is this cheese rack. And like many artifacts here in our Erie Eats exhibit, it is courtesy of the New York State Museum. It's on loan to us for the duration of this exhibit. And thank you to them. Thank you as well to the Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor and the William G. Pomeroy Foundation for supporting Erie Eats in general. We're in our agriculture and farming section of the exhibit, and this is a really fascinating piece of technology from the canal era, and it really illustrates the importance of dairy to the Erie Canal and to New York State in general. The economics of transporting wheat are that you want kind of as cheap of wheat as possible to compete with other people in a market. However, once the Erie Canal kind of opens up settlement of the Midwest, after a few decades, those states like Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois are going to be starting to outcompete New York in cheap grain production. They just have better soil, they have better climate, crops can start growing there a bit sooner because they're a bit farther south. So New York farmers were forced to adapt, and they started producing higher value products agriculturally. And one of the primary high value products they moved towards are dairy products. Now, cheese becomes a huge part of that industry because milk, as many of us know, does not keep very well, doesn't last too long. And this is an era before refrigerated cars and etc., things that allow us nowadays to move our milk hundreds, thousands of miles, perhaps. That wasn't the case. But cheese, however, does not have that issue of spoilage. Cheese can still spoil, but it's a lot harder to do that. So cheese is a good way to preserve dairy products over long distances. Handles on the bottom could be used to flip this cheese every day so that it hardened in a nice consistent pattern, and it's set in nice round shape. You have a lovely wheel of cheese, and this rack is probably a normal size rack for cheese manufacturing, though famously in 1835 the residents of Oswego County, celebrating the election of Andrew Jackson, produced a 1,400-pound wheel of cheese, which was shipped all the way to New York, well, to the Hudson River via canal. First down the Oswego Canal, which is right over there. It would have come right by the Waylock building. Well, the Waylock building didn't exist yet, but it would have gone right past the Syracuse Waylock at the time. And before going down to the White House, where Andrew Jackson, I'm sure, did not eat the full 1,400 pounds of cheese, but hopefully somebody did. New York, thanks to the Erie Canal, was able to produce tons of cheese and move that cheese easily. New York becomes the center of dairy production in the United States for a time. Little Falls gains the nickname of the cheese capital of the world. The Mohawk River Valley is really well known for their cheese production. Out on the far western end of the Mohawk, in Rome, New York, in 1851, a man by the name of Jesse Williams developed the first ever cheese factory in the whole world, bringing together kind of dairy producers from the area. It was kind of like an early co-op, it seems like. These cheese factories start springing up all throughout New York State. Eventually, though, what happens to the wheat industry in New York will happen to the dairy industry. Newer, younger states, as they become more developed, start to also focus on dairy industries, and eventually the dairy industry starts to move out to the Midwest. And Wisconsin famously becomes kind of the center of dairy production. That's not to say that dairy production disappeared from New York State. Not at all. Drive through, any upstate New York town in the spring, and you know those dairy farms are there. You can typically smell them. I know. I grew up in Chenango, New York, and we have a great dairy farm, the Durfees. Shout out to them. There are many great, thriving dairy farms still here in New York State and along the Canal Corridor, producing milk and still producing cheese. And I'd like to tell you the story about one of those places, Miranda Cheese, which was founded in 1991 in Waterloo, New York, so on the Cayuga-Seneca Canal. In 1997, the Murrays even bred a cow that broke the world record for milk production. Miranda, Oscar, Lucinda produced 67,914 pounds of milk in just 1 year. So that's about 8,500 gallons of milk from this one cow, and that no doubt produced some delicious cheese. You can go down to Miranda Cheese. They have cheese tastings and, explore the Cayuga-Seneca and the Finger Lakes region as well. I would highly recommend it. So that's one of the many, many agricultural stories of the Canal Corridor and its continued thriving as an agricultural center with a nearly 200-year-old tradition of canal-side cheese manufacturing. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.